Hello and welcome to the Truth, Health, Freedom podcast. This latest episode is in fact my appearance on another podcast, another YouTube channel called Through an Opaque Lens with your host, Niall Murphy. So I got in touch with Niall because somebody sent me his video about Brian Rose of London Real. So in this episode, Niall interviews me about my experience on the London Real Broadcast Yourself course in 2018, which is where the Truth, Health, Freedom podcast was born. It expands on the last video, which was my review, which I posted about 2 years ago. And this goes much deeper and really reveals the truth about Brian Rose, London Real, and his courses. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, please support both my channel and Niall's channel Through an Opaque Lens. Give us a thumbs up, give us a share, give us a like, and do share this information, this broadcast far and wide, because people have been scammed by Brian Rose and London Real, and he continues to take people's money to this day, which is why I was motivated to do this video, because he's been very prominent lately, taking people's money, asking for more money. And I think people need to know the nature of the man and the nature of his schemes and the nature of his organisation before they decide to part with their hard-earned money. So spread this message far and wide, spread this video far and wide, and I hope you enjoy the interview and I hope you learn something. And now I'll leave you with your host for this episode, Niall Murphy of Through an Opaque Lens.
Hello and welcome everyone to another Through an Opaque Lens with me, Niall Murphy, and this is the first time in YouTube history for this channel to be doing an interview, and believe me, it's been a lot of technical faffing around before I started doing this, but hopefully the end result will work out. Yes, today I have Alan Burton, who got in touch with me because he had issues with, yes, you guessed it, Brian Rose. He went and actually applied and done one of the courses, which cost him a fair packet, and of course he got in touch with me after watching my video about not trusting Brian Rose the other day. So yes, welcome Alan to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, you basically paid for a course, didn't you? You paid for his Broadcast Yourself course. Incidentally, of course, he nicked YouTube's old slogan, didn't he, there? So YouTube can probably take him to court for that. Yeah. But I don't know if he'll get away with that. I don't know. That's old news now. They don't use that anymore. But it was their old phrase, yeah. So yeah, just let us know what happened to you then with all this.
Okay. Well, I signed up to this course. I think it was March 2018.
Right.
So it ran from March till May. It's an 8-week course. And I paid up front in full at the beginning, which was $2,997, which worked out at £2,226.
Yeah.
And the reason I paid up front rather than in installments is because it costs you slightly less if you pay up front.
Oh, I see,
also you supposedly get some bonus modules that you don't get via the installments.
Oh,
so,
right.
And the main reason I signed up to the course was because of the two promises, particularly the second one, that he'll teach you how to make a world-class podcast and how to turn it into a successful business, or in his words, a 6-figure business.
Oh, God, yeah, that sounds dodgy as hell to me. Because, I mean, first and foremost, I don't know how you do world-class. I mean, but one thing I do know about, when it comes to markets, when it comes to the free market itself, you are at the behest of the free market when you're doing any kind of business. And there's no guarantee that you're going to make anything at all, and I think that you get led up the garden path, so to speak. The trouble is that you have to believe that something like that's going to happen and maybe be a bit desperate for something like that to happen. And I mean, it's not like I haven't been in that state of mind before. I think I'm really hoping that this will work. And then someone like Brian Rose comes along, you go for it and think, oh, they might be able to help me. But then, then it turns out not to be what you expect it to be. But so where did it go wrong, and where did he not live up to his promises?
Number one, I do not believe, and many of us on the course did not believe that he taught us how to make a world-class podcast. In fact, it was probably quite the opposite. It was, in effect, it was a boot camp.
Yeah.
And had it been advertised as a boot camp, there is no way on earth that I would have paid the money, especially that kind of money, to do any course. I wouldn't have even paid a small amount because it's not what I needed.
Yeah.
But it was a boot camp that makes you get it done, even if you don't think you're ready and you don't think it's good enough. It makes you get it done, get it published, get it out there, move on to the next episode. And so, but that's not what was advertised. I mean, it's part of what was advertised that is going to get you to produce a podcast, but he's talking about world class. Whereas actually on the course, he says, if you're not embarrassed by your first episodes, you're moving too slow. And also, there wasn't really any, I was expecting, he's teaching us how to make a world-class podcast. He'll teach us all sorts of things about the microphones and the cameras and how to get things technically right and do the sound editing and which are the best programs to use and all this kind of thing. And really it was, they had a very basic template using a really rubbish platform called Shout Engine. So use Zoom and Shout Engine and get you to record audio podcasts primarily, but there could be video. But primarily they were teaching you how to record the audio, how to get it published, and do that quickly. And he also said, no post-production, no editing, because what he's trying to do is get you to get it done, which there are benefits to, but he's advertising world-class podcast, not podcast that you're embarrassed by. And then on the business side, all through the course, we're waiting for this business knowledge to come. So I didn't necessarily think I'm going to make six figures like he advertised, but what I did think was that I was going to learn some very valuable business skills from someone who's very much into business and has been there and done it. I didn't feel we learned much on that side at all. In fact, there was a webinar that sold the course to me. And I, like you, was very suspicious of Brian. I'd been aware of him for a couple of years, and I've been tempted by some of the things he put out there, intrigued, but I never got a good vibe from him. I didn't trust him an inch. But there came this moment where I was ready to produce a podcast. I wanted to produce a podcast. I'd wanted to for years, and this was the time was right. And at the same time, I thought, here's a guy who's going to show me how to do it well, and he's going to show me how to monetize it. And, I thought, and I never really for a moment thought I'm going to make six figures, but I thought at least I'll learn some substantial skills here. But what happened was we kept thinking, where's the business side? Where is this? And then halfway through the course, he said, now you've got a podcast. If you want to turn it into a successful business, you're going to want to sign up to my Business Accelerator course.
Oh, did that cost extra money then?
Well, it's the same kind of price for yet another course. So what he's saying is, we're not going to teach you effectively, he didn't say it in so many words, but effectively he did, was saying, we're not really going to teach you how to produce a successful business here. For that, you need to sign up to my next course. But the only reason I signed up was because of this promise that was hammered in. And I watched a webinar before I signed up. I watched probably 2 webinars before I signed up. And in those webinars, which were probably like an hour and a half long, he showed us his funnel and all. That's not a euphemism. He showed us his funnel and how you'd get people in and blah, 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 and how you'd make money and all this kind of thing. And the whole gist of it was that on the course, he's going to put the flesh on the bones. He's going to really flesh that out, and you're going to learn a lot more how that's really done. What actually happened, I felt, and many of us felt, was that there was no more in the course about making a successful business than was already in that webinar or than was already on the sign-up page, which seems to go on forever. And it kind of fleshed out or put the, put the framework out there of what you'd learn. But in the actual course, it didn't really go any further than that. So on that moment, when halfway through the course, he said, if you want to turn it into a business, you really want to sign up to my business accelerator course. At that moment, I mean, there was already a lot of, unhappiness on there for various reasons. But in that moment, the atmosphere on the course just turned on a dime. It really, really did.
Yeah.
And the other reason I signed up, before I forget, because I will forget otherwise, is he did say, we've got this money back guarantee. If you are in any way unhappy with the course, if you've completed the course, you're in any way unhappy, you've got up to 60 days from the completion of the course to ask for your money back, and we'll refund you in full. So you can't lose, basically. Yeah. So even though I didn't, I got a funny vibe about him, but I thought, well, okay, he's put that out there, so surely that's legally binding. And if you don't try, you never know. I want to make a podcast. He's a very successful man. He's got a high quality production. He's been very successful in terms of how big it's become. So he obviously makes money from it. So, okay, I could learn something from this guy. And I took the plunge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I kind of have learned, I mean, I'm doing this at the moment with, let's say the high production values that I've managed to accumulate by guessing what to do as time's gone by, without a producer and all of that. And currently, as I'm speaking, with 300 subscribers, I mean, it's not bad that I've managed to get 300 subscribers in just a month, but the trouble is, of course, is that people like, the really, really top of the range people with the most amount of subscribers, like, I suppose, Joe Rogan, or like Brian Rose, or even like people like David Icke, or someone like him, or Alex Jones, when they were up, with their amount of subscribers they got before they got deplatformed. A very small amount of people actually get to the top there like that. And I'd just be thinking, all right, he's got, 1 million, becoming 2 million very quickly. I've noticed that recently, right? I'm not hoping to ever get that much. I mean, even if I was to buy some sort of miracle, 100,000, that's like, that'd be like an impossible mountain to climb. I don't put that beyond the realm of impossibility, but the million that he's got, I'd certainly look at and I think, no, there's no point even thinking about getting that big, right? That's just... And even if I don't, I mean, even if, to be honest, I get to just 1,000, which I might do this year, I'll be happy with that. But I don't know how he got to where he got. But when I look at what he's done, because I mean, like I say, being the age I am, I remember the 1980s very clearly. And I think the thing about the 1980s was that you had the yuppies, as you know, you had multi-level marketing schemes, you had, all the kind of, I don't know what you call it, neuro-linguistic programming. You'd have all that kind of language, terminology, manipulation.
Yeah, he knows all about that.
Yeah. And he looks like he's gone on some sort of course or whatever he's done to learn how to manipulate how people think, how to appeal to people's more gullible nature, if you like, and how to take advantage of that. And also, I mean, as well as that, a good example was he had, what was his name? Tika Tiwari, the man who was talking about the 5 coins, the 5 crypto coins. Now, I mean, I'm familiar with the crypto space. I know all of the names in there. I mean, I'm kind of, I know the who's who, and I'll give you names of all the crypto celebrities. I've never heard of this man in my life, not once. And I mean, I know the good and the bad involved in all of that, and never heard of him. I thought, well, who the hell's he? Brian Rose is talking to him for about an hour, and he's talking about these 5 coins. They never mention these 5 coins. And if you want to know which 5 coins there are, you then have to go and sign up to a webinar that happens afterwards. These techniques and tactics are very suspicious.
And you have to give him your email address.
Yeah. And then he spams you and spams you and spams you.
Yeah.
By the time you've got about 500 of them, he's worn you down. You think, oh, right, then I think I'll try his course out, or whatever. Then you do it. And that's how he gets his claws into people. So I've seen this before.
I'll give him credit. He is relentless.
Yeah.
He does work hard. He is relentless. And in fairness to him, because I will be fair, there was a lot, probably a lot more than I've mentioned, that I was very unhappy with, and a lot of people were unhappy with. But there was some stuff where you almost got to admire that he's got this incredible work ethic, and he got to the success, if you call it success. Certainly it's professional and financial success. He's got there by being utterly relentless.
Oh yes, but to me it just seems like a personality disorder, like OCD or something, All right, maybe it's better putting it to good use than it is sticking up your veins like he used to. So fair play to him for getting off heroin. I mean, I can't say that's a bad thing, but at the same time, I mean, you know, when you saw that podcast of mine that brought you to email me in the first place, Scam Guard, you know,
Yeah.
there was about 20 people. I think out of that, only 2 people got resolved so far.
Yes.
But that was immediately 60 grand. Now, even if his business is so big that he didn't scam that many people, and it was only like, I don't know, between 2 and 5% of all his punters. The problem that you've got there is it's still 60 grand.
I am confident he's scammed thousands.
Yeah.
Confident.
That's
on
the
these
tip
courses.
of the iceberg. Yeah.
And most of them, they won't complain. So I paid in full up front. So the vulnerable ones tend to be those who could not pay in full up front. Okay. They're the most vulnerable because they're desperate to change their lives. So they have to pay in installments. So what most people did who were unhappy, they paid in installments, and then after the end of the course, when they realized, oh, right, because you actually think even on graduation weekend, you think, well, maybe that's where he's going to tell us all these secrets that we've signed up for. That's where he's going to show his true colors and show us this real business marketing master plan. And we got a little bit of a talk from Julian Bales, who is his Google YouTube guy that sorts all that side of things out. And that was interesting, but it was not anything more than you could get from a basic search on YouTube.
Yeah.
But so after that course is finished, what these people did was, and I'm sure they've done it time and time and time again on course after course after course, they stopped their installments. Or they applied for a refund. They realized they're not getting a refund. It's been refused. So they stopped their installments.
Oh, I see.
Then what happens is they are afraid that Brian Rose is going to come after them, or London Real, Brian Rose, whoever, is going to come after them for their installments. Therefore, they then keep a low profile.
Oh.
They don't go to the small claims court. They don't publicize things. They just keep a low profile because they're afraid. Now, I kept a low profile for a number of reasons. One was that I thought, well, this is the beginning of my podcasting career. The last thing I want to do is make a powerful enemy. That was one of my main reasons. But even then, I did apply for a refund, but I managed to apply within his 60-day thing. But the moment I decided that I should apply for a refund and forget upsetting powerful people at the beginning of your podcasting career. It's the right thing to do. It's morally the right thing to do. It's the best thing for me. It's the best thing for all the people he's scammed before, all the people he's going to scam in the future. It's also the best thing for Brian because he's got to learn at some point. And if he's not shown and told, how can he possibly learn? You know, if he has this blind spot. And so I thought, okay, I paid by debit card. I didn't know anything about this 120-day rule. The day that I decided I've got to try and get my money back was 122 days after I paid.
Oh, right.
Whereas had it been within 120 days, I could have just made a complaint to the debit card company and got it back. There are some who will have used credit cards. So one of those that's resolved on Scam Guard, paid by credit card, and they can do something, a chargeback or something, whatever they call it, to the credit card company and get it back that way.
Yeah.
I thought very carefully. I was very seriously considering going to the small claims court, and that option is still open to me for another 3 years. I looked into it. I've called Citizens Advice Bureau. I collected all the evidence. I personally believe he's in contravention of at least 2 laws, which are, he's probably contravening a few more, but these are the 2 that I feel confident he was contravening. Number 1 is the 1967 Misrepresentation of Goods and Services Act.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the other one was a 2008 Consumer Rights or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I strongly believe that he was in contravention of those 2 things. And so I considered very strongly going to the small claims court. And the reason I haven't is because it costs a bit of money to go to the small claims court. Then if he decides to get an expert witness in, then he can charge that to me. And then if he wins, I'm out of pocket. But then I thought, even if I win, the chances are he won't give me any money. You know, it's one thing, a court ruling, but then would he actually give the money, he'll claim he hasn't got any. David Fuller's recent investigation says, oh, he's in financial trouble. There's no way that guy's in financial trouble. He's just shipped it all off to an island or something.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people he's scammed, the amount of money he's taken, the amount of unhappiness he has caused, the amount of people who are very, very upset with him. What you saw on Scam God is the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. I truly believe that. Now, some were happy because some thought, well, I just need, as one guy on the podcasting course said, I just need Brian to kick my arse, which is fair enough. Okay. But it wasn't advertised as that. I have no problem with people charging $3,000 for a course. I have no problem with someone charging $10,000 for a course. I have no problem with that course having not that much in it, so long as it's sold accurately and honestly. I have no problem with that,
Yeah.
So it's the dishonesty and the misleading tactics that I'm really upset with, and I think others were very, very upset with as well. So, as I say, what you see on the internet is the tip of the iceberg. Furthermore, we had to write a review. So you might find online some good reviews of his courses. That will be because partway through the course, towards the end, so about 3/4, maybe 8/10 of the way through the course, something like that, he then says, I need you to leave me a review. And if you leave him a review, and it's not spoken, but you just know by the vibe, well, it better be good, hadn't it? Because otherwise I'm not going to get access to those final 2 modules. He said, you only get access to the final 2 modules, one of which is the one that says how to turn your podcast into a business. You don't get access to that unless you leave him a review. And it better be a review that he's happy with, or otherwise you're not going to get access to those videos. So then what happened at that point was a load of people, even those who I thought knew better, wrote these really sycophantic reviews, and he asked them to be on medium.com. So he's probably got some deal with medium.com.
Oh, right, yeah.
I can't say that for sure. That's my speculation. So I will separate fact from speculation. But you had to write that review in order to get access to those modules. Now, I didn't publish my review. I recorded one. Instead of doing it on Medium, I recorded a spoken one, which I have 2 years later. I've now put it as unlisted as listed, whereas before it was unlisted on YouTube. And I decided at the time not to publish it, and therefore technically I shouldn't have had access to those final 2 modules. However, I found out afterwards when I was doing all my research, collecting all my evidence for the small claims court, I realized actually because I paid in full, I was supposed to have those modules and several other things that I didn't get.
Oh, right.
And I'd already paid. Whereas if you paid in installments, they were genuinely bonus modules. And then the thing is, I did actually see the modules because a friend just gave me the link, a friend who did write a review. Sorry, Brian, but I paid for them anyway. And the modules themselves were just these 2 rubbishy 10-minute videos, one of which was little more than a sales pitch for his business accelerator course anyway.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, that...
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you'll find more positive online than negative, because so many people are hiding from him because they're scared he'll come after them for money. And he asks for a review so that you can have access to your final 2 modules that you've already bloody well paid for.
Well, I'll tell you, you're telling me all this. The first thing that came to mind for me was, having kind of, I grew up very much in the mean streets myself, and kind of I know how these spivs think. He knows that he ain't going to get all the money. He knows people are going to be pulling out of the installments. He don't care. He's not coming after you. You're too small and insignificant for him to even give a shit.
I told this to my friend.
He knows also that these people are going to be intimidated by him. And one of the reasons why he's always beefcaking it up, why he's always doing that whole, big man thing, where he, when he starts his videos, he's always sort of like going at that angle where he's showing you how ripped.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing that because, he's just saying, I'm harder than you. You cross me, I'll kick your head in. That's basically, he's just like school playground tactics, really. He can't get away with that in adult life, of course. but it appeals to some sort of childhood, some subconscious thing that goes on in our minds. And this is the difference, I think, between someone like Brian Rose and someone like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, he's a hard man, but the difference between Joe Rogan and Brian Rose is that Joe Rogan only learned to fight because he got sick of being bullied. His parents were hippies. He was a freak. They were moved all around the place. So he never got to settle at school to be anywhere long enough to be popular. And so he only learned martial arts to protect himself from bullies. But he wasn't the bullying type. You can see it in the difference between their personas, can't you? Very clearly.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, Joe Rogan obviously has been very, very successful. But the thing is, he sells products. He has these deals with Onnit and Squarespace and whatever else he's had.
Yeah.
But he's not being a dishonest salesman at any point. He's not bullying people. I mean, there was quite a bullying vibe on the course, I'll be honest. I haven't talked about that yet.
Oh, yeah.
But I think people were partly scared of Brian. And I did say to my friend, he won't be coming after you because it's much easier for him to you've already been fooled. It's much easier. So you're not going to get fooled again. No. It's much easier for him to go after someone who hasn't previously been fooled.
Yeah.
And there's, one born every minute, as they say, a sucker born every minute. And I was embarrassed. That's another reason I didn't go public at the time. I was embarrassed by having been fooled. I'll be honest. I was really embarrassed. But yeah, people are just scared he's going to come after them for money. And some also scared of the legal system. Like me, I did call a few legal people and they said, well, the one who could look at it thought he was qualified to look at it, said it'd be £500 just to look at my dossier of evidence. So to find out whether I've got a case is going to be £500 in the first place. And so really the small claims court is the only way to go. But even there, I could lose a little bit. And bearing in mind, the kind of people who were pissed off with him are the kind of people who are not flush with cash. There were quite a few on the course who are flush with cash, who were and probably are still. And many of them seemed perfectly happy with the course. They just thought, well, I just need a boot camp. I need to get it off the ground. Or maybe they're the kind of people who have similar mentality to Brian, who are perfectly happy with his kind of marketing techniques, which were immoral, currently illegal. At the time, were about to become illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Because of GDPR. So at the time I did the course, GDPR was coming in.
Oh, what's that? You have to explain that for me.
GDPR is basically the laws against spamming. So it's across the EU, we have laws against spamming people by email and that kind of thing. And his methodology for the marketing side of things is to spam all your contacts. Even if it's the most tenuous contact, you spam everybody. As he does, really. Yeah. And GDPR was about to come in. Now, during the week when the spamming was supposed to take place, I had some work on, so I couldn't do it that week. By the time it's time for me to start doing it, it's illegal. Furthermore, he says, don't worry if you get left behind. On the advertising, it says, don't worry if you get left behind. You've got lifetime access to the course and blah, blah, blah. But actually, if you do get left behind, then you would not be entitled to the money-back guarantee that nobody gets anyway. And it's now become illegal. But having read the reviews in all the courses, the subsequent courses, even though the law had changed already, he was still getting people to do the same spamming. But that spamming itself took an immense workload. So what we found was among those who were a bit wealthier, among the students who were wealthier, they were outsourcing their schoolwork. They were paying, I don't know what it's called, but there's a website where you find people cheap labor, basically. And it'll be someone in Eastern Europe who's happy to work for £3 an hour.
Ooh.
And they outsource their schoolwork to those people to get things done. And then on these weekly calls that we had with Brian and our team leaders, we had what were called stars and clowns. This is where a bit of the bullying comes in. So people were singled out as star pupils, and people were singled out as clowns because they were falling behind a little bit. Now, it might be someone with 5 kids, 6 jobs, who's dealing with cancer. You don't know. That's obviously an exaggeration. But there were people who've got all sorts of circumstances, and there might be multiple genuine reasons why they fall behind. But on these calls, they were singled out as clowns. One person did take exception to that. And he just kind of came in on the call saying, I do not like being called a clown, and went off on one. Brian got absolutely furious with him and shut off all the mics and said there'd be no swearing on his call or whatever he said. I can't remember, but it came down like boom, like really, really hard on that. He would not take any of that. He's happy to dish it out, but not to have it in return. So that was kind of a bullying aspect of the course, whereas the majority couldn't afford to get people to do their work. Now, if you get left behind, you've got this thing called the accountability document.
Yeah.
And you turn it from red to green with each task being completed. Now, if you get left behind, you're not going to get that completed. And therefore, you will not be eligible for the refund that nobody gets anyway. So it's kind of stacked so far against anybody getting the refund. And I couldn't legitimately, I'll be honest, I couldn't legitimately fill out my document because there was no way I was going to spam everybody in that way. And I saw on ScamGuard someone had written in the review and then linked to a video that he'd taken of one of Brian's Zoom calls. So briefly, it says that on the document selling document page, web page that sold the course, it said how much, how I'd get personal interaction with him, and we'd be mentored. We'd have this team leader who says business coach who's dedicated to your business model. Well, first of all, there was no business model described or discussed during the course, no individual business model. This coach is basically someone who graduated on the last course and now has an unsuccessful podcast, everyone's team leader was slightly different. Some had team leaders who were very, very hands-on and helped them out hugely. We had one who was barely there. I got no indication that the team leader had listened to any of my work whatsoever. There was no constructive feedback. There was no assistance. There was no help. And there was certainly no, I think I might have had 2 seconds or 30 seconds max individual interaction with Brian Rose as part of a larger Zoom call. Whereas on the thing that sells the course, he does say how much you can have loads of interaction with him and all this kind of thing. One of the ScamGuard reviews actually said that there was always promise that he's going to be mentoring them through the course. And he was actually off doing ayahuasca in Costa Rica while people have paid $3,000 for one of his courses, which says he's going to personally mentor them. And he's off doing ayahuasca in Costa Rica. So it's not happening. So I can't remember what my point was when I went off on a tangent. Oh, yeah, this guy had recorded a video. So he's one of the ScamGuard reviewers. He's recorded a video that's one of Brian's Sunday night or Tuesday Zoom calls, whichever it was. And Brian's on that call saying to someone how you've got to spam all your Facebook contacts. And he said, if you don't feel really uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. And if Facebook isn't banning you, you're not doing it right.
Oh, I read that. I remember reading that. Yeah. Bloody hell. So, if you're not losing all your friends, you're not doing it right, basically.
Yeah. And again, in the ScamGuard reviews, a lot of people said they've damaged a lot of their business and friendship network contacts by doing what Brian said, because people, that's another thing he said from the very beginning. There's a lady on the course called Lisa May. And one of the first things we got was she kind of gives you this introductory video. She says, trust the process. So, okay, where's this business information? No, trust the process. This doesn't seem right. Trust the process.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing, so it was quite cult-like in a way. The other thing, and this came from the very beginning, was this rule that there will be no negativity on this course. It's absolutely banned. In other words, if you see that he's not delivering, if you see that this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I paid my money for, if you see that there is bullying, if you see that you're being encouraged to alienate all your network, if you see that we're going to be breaking GDPR laws, if you see that this workload is too great. If you say anything about any of these things, it was deemed to be negativity, and it was come down on very, very hard. So within my particular team, there wasn't a huge amount of talk about the scam that's been going on. In another team, there was, and there were strict orders from on high to shut it down, basically. So, yeah, and this is a lot of this I found out sort of later on, but I knew something was going on because on his final call, the final thing he said on his final call, the final Zoom call with the whole group, which is a massive group, he said at the end, this is the end of the course. I think I've delivered, and my opinion matters. Because clearly a lot of people had said he hadn't delivered, whereas as far as he was concerned, no, I've delivered. The document and the documents that says, not document, the web page that goes on and on and on and on, promising what's in the course.
Yeah.
Plus the webinar selling the course. As far as I'm concerned, what was sold was not fully delivered. Now, the dossier of evidence that I've collected, in my opinion, he's provided enough rope to hang himself. Whether the small claims court, for example, would agree, I don't know, because I'm not a legal person. From a layman's point of view, we look at all that and it's absolutely obvious. And this is, again, why I hadn't yet gone ahead to the small claims court, because I don't know if there's some legal technicality why I actually don't have a case. Whereas to any layman looking at the evidence that I've collected, it's the most clear-cut case imaginable, and there's no way on earth they wouldn't rule in my favor.
Yeah.
But that's
I mean,
that's it.
Maybe it's worth taking a risk in a case like this, I think, if you're confident with your body of evidence that you've got, because, I mean, otherwise he's just going to carry on. And even if you fail, I mean, all right, you've already been ripped off by him once. Even if you failed this time, it would, combined with this podcast and any message that's going to get out. You see, what I'm hoping for, and I don't know, but what I'm really hoping for is because, I mean, I've been friends with, I mean, I don't know if you know of Ben Emlyn Jones. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, tell me more.
All right, Ben Emlyn Jones, right? He's an ex-hospital porter who was a conspiracy researcher, and he's kind of like, I mean, he's reasonably high profile. He's, I've been on, I go on a regular podcast with him quite often. He's one of these people who's very, very committed to what he does. He doesn't do it for any other reason except his love of doing it. He's into his conspiracies. He's into his UFOs and his aliens and stuff like that. But he's not like a paranoid crazy person. He does it purely for the love of it. It's like a hobby for him. He's very interested. I first met him in Avebury. It must have been over a decade ago, and we've been mates ever since. And it was during the time when David Icke was turning up to go down there, you see. So Ben Emlyn Jones, like me, is kind of like quite reasonably level-headed. He doesn't fall for anything cult-like. He never fell for the flat earth thing when that came out. He knew that was something to be sceptical about. But he was nevertheless interested in, on his program, having me as the counter, the devil's advocate to a flat earther in a program that he done. So all I know is that, me and Ben are friends. He is a lot more high profile than me, of course. As well as that, there's I've been friends with Thomas Sheridan, the Irishman. Maybe you've heard of him. I don't know. Right? Yeah,
I have heard of him. Yeah.
Right. So I kind of think that between the three of us, we're quite different in a lot of ways, but we're all trying to be good. And I think in this case, I think we all were, very disappointed to find out what happened to David Icke. The fact that he had been deplatformed, and it does seem a bit suspicious to me. The fact that that Brian Rose hasn't gone the same way as David Icke. The same think tank that the Centre for Countering Digital Hate come along are talking about, banning him or deplatforming him for his association with David Icke. Now, I wouldn't support that because that would be for the wrong reasons, and they could come after me because they're part of that whole Puritan social justice warrior thing that's going on. But what I'm really hoping for is that people like me and Ben and Thomas, we're the sort of people that we would want to get this message. We probably want to get this podcast and this information out and somehow hope that it reaches David Icke. This is the sort of thing. Because I think if David Icke knew what he got himself into, he wouldn't support Brian Rose anymore.
Yeah, I've often wondered because every time I thought about, okay, I'd like to interview this person, or that's an interesting person. I look on YouTube. First thing that comes up, London Real have already been there, done it. There's a lot of people that I respect who don't seem to be anything like Brian's character, and would not want to get involved with someone who is ripping people off in the way that I feel he is. And I'll keep saying I feel by my interpretation, because, I don't know what the law says, but this is my experience, my interpretation of what I experience. I think he's scamming people. I think he's being dishonest or overselling. At the very least, he's overselling, over egging the pudding kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think these people would want to be associated with that. But on the other hand, I think he's got the biggest numbers. What he likes on his podcast is he likes people who've got high numbers. So I remember once, before I'd ever signed up to a course of his, there was this thing going around where it said, suggest a guest for London Real. And so I did. And on the form where you suggest a guest, it said, who is he? What's his Twitter handle? How many followers does he have?
Oh, I see.
And so that's clearly very important to him. And that's part of the success. If you go for someone who's got a lot of followers, then you could get a show like yours. If you've interviewed someone who had 10 million, if you, let's say, as somebody did on our course, interview a high profile sportsman who's got a Twitter account, and he posts your interview with him on his Twitter account, suddenly you've got millions of views just like that. And one of our pupils did that. So what was my point? I've lost my thread here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So he goes for the numbers, i.e. which guests have got the numbers. So that's going to bring eyes to my platform. The guests are thinking, which broadcaster has the numbers? So mutually, they've got that one thing in common. So in my eyes, David Icke might be thinking, well, even if David Icke thought, I don't like this guy, or even if, I know, Dr. Gregor thought, I don't like this guy, or Graham Hancock thought, I don't like this guy, the thing is, though, that he probably turns on the charm for them, so they probably do like him. But even if they did think there's something not right here, they're thinking, you know what, this message I've got, I want to get it out to as many people as possible. So let's say David Icke clearly doesn't trust the BBC. We know that.
Yeah.
Probably if the BBC gave him a platform, he'd take it, because he's going to get millions of viewers.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's where I think people compromise their integrity because they feel this is what I want to get out there. This is the message I want to get out there. And this is the biggest platform I've got at the moment. But Ike goes on small shows as well. That's one thing I actually like about him. For whatever people say about his theories, whether you agree with him or not, one thing I do like about him is you'll get some podcaster who's got a brand new small show and he'll go, yeah, I'll come on your show. And then he'll go on the biggest show as well. So,
I mean, I got that vibe.
I think he's easy.
When I was in Avebury, and I did have a brief encounter with David Icke, and I met him, chatted to him for a while. He was actually all right. I didn't get any impression that he was this kind of self-important celebrity who was too cool to speak to anyone. He seemed like a nice enough bloke. And that's what I mean. Regardless, I mean, there's a lot of things he says I can't take seriously at all. But at the same time, just by the very nature of who he is, he's not like a cult leader. He's not a terrorist. He's not going to blow you up or stab you, take you to the cleaners, rip you off, any of that. The idea of censoring him, just because we're now living in this time where we've got, it's all getting a little bit too communist, in my opinion, the way they're banning free speech and curtailing it.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Did you see... There's a clip of Susan, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's probably Wojcicki or something like that, or Wojcicki, I don't know. Yeah. And then what you'll get is the Americans will Americanize it. So I don't know what the pronunciation is, but she's CEO of YouTube. She's put up a video recently saying that she will pull any information that doesn't agree with the WHO narrative. And she mentioned in this short statement, she's being interviewed, she said, so if someone puts stuff up there about turmeric and high vitamin C, that'll be pulled.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned that that means it basically against the YouTube policy for me to mention that Taiwan is a sovereign nation. That's basically it, because the WHO is so much in the pocket of China that they don't acknowledge Taiwan as a sovereign entity anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. So this video might be pulled then.
Yeah.
In that case, it's obviously whether they pick up on things. And those two California doctors as well, who gave a very sober, rational, professional opinion.
Yeah.
Without any conspiracy theory kind of stuff in there. Saying they agreed with what Fauci had done in the first place, and they agreed with the lockdown in the first place. But as the information's come to light, they think the situation should be reviewed.
Yeah.
That has been pulled time and time again from YouTube, and they've had to re-upload things, and it remains on BitChute because that's where, you put something up there and it remains. So
yeah,
it's interesting. What I find, we live in the most fascinating times. I'm not a fan of this censorship. I don't think Ike should have been banned.
No.
I don't think that Brian Rose should be banned unless it's for his marketing practices.
Yeah.
In terms of him providing a platform for somebody to come and speak, he shouldn't be banned. Ike shouldn't be banned.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be a ban. So a friend of mine mentioned something yesterday about Brian Rose. He said these scams that he is facilitating, that he is selling, YouTube are facilitating them.
Yeah.
And so they both profit from each other when really, they should both be sanctioned for what's going on.
Yeah. And I also get the vibe. I mean, what you said, I did actually make a video which I said that, Brian Rose should not be deplatformed by anti-hate speech groups. And if you go along with that, well, they're the same people who could be coming for you. You can't use that enemy of an enemy as a friend logic when you're dealing there. You've got to be honest in your justice. But like you said, exactly that. One of the things I noticed as well is the fact that when Brian Rose had put his more recent videos on, he claimed that the one with David Icke got pulled, but I'm suspicious about that, whether he pulled it himself. And
I think something was manipulated. I can't prove it. Again, I'll separate speculation from what I experienced.
But then when he done the next video, he didn't do it on YouTube, but he only done the announcements on YouTube that he would do it.
I got a feeling it was perfect, and that there may have been some manipulation in the background, because I know how well he works the YouTube algorithms. I know that the guy that works for him knows how to work these things. He's always top of YouTube. There's always adverts everywhere. I just got the sense, and again, it's complete intuition, speculation, no proof whatsoever. I got the sense that some strings may have been pulled. If they were pulled, it was a master stroke of media manipulation, marketing, kind of, what's his name? P.T. Barnum type stunt. If he hadn't pulled any strings, then he certainly knew, here's my chance. I'm going to take this chance and really milk it and take everything I can and really boost my profile, boost my income. And I'll be honest, the reason I came public recently and the reason I got in touch with you and why I made my 2-year-old review video public was because I saw him coming out asking for money. I'm thinking, how much money has Brian Rose taken from people? He does not need to be asking people for money. And I want people to know the kind of practices he's been involved with before they think about giving him money for his free speech platform. Yeah.
There's also the fact that, how can I say? There was some video that I saw, and you saw this on or what they called now Rebel Wisdom, where someone was a clip that had been played, some bloke with an Eastern European accent was talking about going into the code and discovering that this private server video that Brian Rose has supposedly put up was actually using Dailymotion.
Yeah, but the thing it does take time. The thing he's supposedly wanting to put in place, I think, would take time. So you can sort of say, fair enough, he's trying to do something quickly, which is a Brian Rose trait. So something we learned on the course as, success secrets in a way. I'll be fair, there's some things that are borderline good and bad, and there's some things that on the course that probably were good. So the way that he teaches you how to grasp the nettle and pull the trigger, and things like that, and he'll
but you see the thing about
kick
it is
your ass. But he has this thing about getting things done, even if you don't have, even if it's not ready, the platform's not ready, it's not going to be quite good enough. But we have to seize this moment. We have to get it done. We have to pull the trigger, and that's something he's very much about.
Yeah.
So fair enough, the platform's not there yet, but whether that money is allocated correctly,
well,
who knows?
That's
I
evidence.
I would trust that.
That to me is evidence. I mean, he's saying, this is one of the things that he's doing. He's doing these crowdfunding things where he's raising all this money. And of course, this is all in the public domain for people to witness, that he's raised all this money by crowdfunding and saying that this is to pay for server space. Well, at the same time, he's not saying, in the meantime, I'm using this other platform. But then it's been discovered by someone else that he's doing that. And the code behind his website reveals that. So there's all these bits of evidence that he's up to no good, or he's not doing these things right, should we say, not doing them by the book. And I suppose my real the next thing I'm thinking he's doing is, YouTube have probably threatened him. They probably said, right, we're gonna pull you, or we're gonna strike you, or we're gonna reprimand you, wag our fingers at you if you have David Icke on anymore. And he's probably decided, I know what I'll do. I'll use YouTube as a means of telling people, announcing that I'm going to be having these people on, and I'm going to be using my own server or Dailymotion in secret server to broadcast the video, but I won't put them on YouTube. So that way he kind of gets around it. He's no longer breaching protocol anymore.
And the notoriety is fantastic for him. It's like the band record always gets to number one.
Yeah, it's true. And then of course I go on there, and he's bloody everywhere. For someone who's supposed to be banned, and talking about banned people, and someone who's supposed to be this little guy victim of a big conspiracy, he's like I say, I look at him, in a corner, in the margin, all the videos come up. They're all London Real, London Real, London Real, just loads and loads and loads of them. They won't go away. You've got a better chance of getting rid of herpes, I think, basically. And, it's just really bad. And his site kept crashing when I tried to watch the Rose Icke 3 live. And then I had to put my email back in again. It kept resetting itself, which kind of meant that, I'm going to get more spam again. So, this was another thing. I had to unsubscribe from it. People who told me they've unsubscribed from it told me that they're still getting spam from him as well.
Yeah, that's my experience as well. Yeah. So eventually it stopped, but I don't know how many times I did unsubscribe. And that's not just happened since the Broadcast Yourself course. It happened prior to the Broadcast Yourself course as well, because sometimes I looked into some of his things. Yeah. Because he does that thing where you've got to sign into his website to watch certain things. And, if there's someone really interesting there, you might want to have a look. I'll be honest, though, the whole experience did leave a bad taste in my mouth, and I found it. I've hardly watched anything of his since the course, because I just didn't want to see it. Left such a nasty taste.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you for this sort of. I just find this really bad. Well, I'm glad I've done this now, and maybe there'll be repercussions. Who knows? But to tell you the truth, if he does decide to come after me, I shall be grateful for him making me famous, because if he comes after me, I will have, as I say, a few people who would actually be in my defence, who would speak up for me, and of course, between all of us, we would get the message to David Icke, so he would lose David Icke's trust. I'm sure of it. If he tried any funny stuff, and he'll never be able to do this again. The conspiracy and alternative media thing will think of Brian Rose as a bit of a no-go area, and I'm confident in that. I think it's probably to do with my pure blood Irish background. I have an enormous amount of temerity, shall I say? I'm a proper David on the receiving end of Goliath if I need to be. I don't care if he's harder than me.
Yeah. The bigger they come.
Yeah, exactly. Bigger they fall. Just gotta
and also out. he will not want this publicity. I did think at the time, I thought, well, I'll go to the small claims court, and if that doesn't work, I'll try BBC Watchdog or Rogue Traders or something like that. Because the last thing he wants, he's all about the publicity. It's all about this image and his sales based on a particular image. The last thing he would want would be a national television audience looking into him,
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't go ahead because I'm not vindictive in any way.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, just as long as you stop scamming people,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this isn't.
start selling your courses accurately. I do believe, however, that there is a part of him, and this is maybe because I give the benefit of the doubt too much to people. This is what
Yeah.
people tell me anyway. You say you're too nice, you're too, you don't see what people are doing because you try to see the best in them. I do think there's a part of him that believes he's doing nothing wrong, that believes he's doing good, that believes his courses are good value for money, believes that they're sold fairly.
Yeah.
The way I see it is charge what you want for your course, but sell it accurately.
Yeah.
That's it. Just sell it accurately. You could charge £100,000, which people do. That's when people are famous, they get paid ridiculous amounts for one-to-one mentorship or going to talk to a group of business people, those kind of things. Charge whatever you want, but sell your services accurately.
Exactly.
That's it.
Just
and give the money back. Give the money back to all those people to whom you did not sell your services accurately, who are very, very upset. Give them all their money back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you've got enough because he claims, he says, I was this successful banker. I've got this successful business now.
Yeah.
If you're so successful, then you can pay them back.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, but this is so he kind of reminds me a little bit of Tony Blair, someone who had to pathologically spin the hell out of bloody everything and control and micromanage his image entirely. That's kind of like that sort of mentality.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
And so I've kind of seen this before, and the thing is that once it is revealed, what he is and what he's doing, then that's bad. And no, this is not vindictiveness at all. I don't think there's anything vindictive about what we're doing now. I mean, the reason why I'm motivated by this is because I don't like seeing David Icke being caught up in all of this. Even though I'm not really a conspiracy theorist myself, I don't like seeing him caught up in this, and I don't like seeing his kind of nice, trusting nature being hijacked like this, because we've got this problem, as you know, at the moment, as we've spoken about. We've got these gatekeepers, the social justice warriors, the green communists and all that. They were being the gatekeepers, policing the wrong thinkers, right? And they're coming after people like David Icke. But then on the other side, we've got the thing that we want to be able to save our own people from being gate-kept by these thought police. The last thing we need is some spiv coming along and, taking advantage of it in a really deceptive way, like the way Brian Rose is doing. He's kind of insinuated his way into all of this. And to me, it feels like it's poisoned the well. It brings the whole thing into disrepute, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree, because especially in this time, what we've got in this time is more people than ever have got time on their hands because of lockdown. So the kind of stuff that maybe I've been watching for years and years, some people are coming to it fresh now. And their first experience of seeing it is through this whole London Real drama that's going on at the moment, through that lens. Yeah. And it's not the best. It's not the best way to present this. But that said, that makes me think, so many people, that's going to be their first experience of really listening to David Icke. Yeah. And this made me wonder, prior to the interview with Brian that got pulled, banned, censored, whatever we want to call it, David Icke had been doing, as he always does, he'd be doing podcast after podcast or broadcast after broadcast, interview after interview. And in all of them, he said pretty much the same thing, which is why I thought Brian's pulling some strings here. Because why did that particular interview get banned and not all the others? Now, somebody said to me it's because London Real's so big that it's almost like a mainstream channel and you can't do that on a mainstream channel. Maybe that's a reason. But David said nothing that he hadn't said elsewhere 1,000 times.
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? The fact that, he got Alex Jones involved and, got him. YouTube didn't, YouTube and all of Silicon Valley could say, look, we've got rid of this man. We don't want you interviewing him. We don't want you doing that and interviewing David Icke at the same time. And they could have just decided that Brian Rose was a troublemaker and pulled him and unpersoned him entirely. It then also makes me wonder whether, of course, I hate to say this, man, but there's something a little bit, we call it funny handshake brigade about this whole setup. The old boys secret society network. I might be wrong, but it does seem to me like a bit of what I would call you scratch my back, I scratch yours corruption and shenanigans seems to be going on to me. That's why when I smell her out, that's what I see. And again, this is all speculation. I can't prove anything here one way or the other. But there's something not quite right about someone who's getting all the unpersoned people out, putting them on YouTube, breaking the internet, and somehow surviving being unpersoned to the point where you can't get rid of him from your feed no matter what the hell you do. And not just someone was told me, someone from New Zealand I think told me that they were looking at one of their local newspapers, I think the New Zealand Herald, and Brian Rose's Business Accelerator course come up in the adverts there. Had nothing to do with YouTube or anything like that.
In the actual paper, physical paper, not the online paper.
The online paper itself in the margin.
They
screenshotted it and sent a copy so I could see it, and I thought, my God, so he's getting himself absolutely everywhere, and I don't know, so
it's marketing budget. All that money for marketing. Imagine if all that money for marketing went to pay back all the people he'd scammed.
Yeah.
So just his marketing, probably his monthly marketing budget alone would probably be enough to pay back a good number of people who've been scammed.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. God, or maybe scam that many people that it wouldn't be enough. There's that too.
That's true. That is true. I actually thought of that as I said it. I thought maybe not. Yeah. Maybe it's a year's marketing budget would pay everybody back. But I mean, it would be fascinating. I don't know how you could possibly do it. But if enough word spread that he's being seriously investigated, it'll be like a Harvey Weinstein moment, hashtag Me Too.
Yeah.
For people who've been scammed by Brian Rose. And if everyone who felt they'd been scammed by Brian Rose came out of the woodwork and somebody calculated how much money that came to, I think your eyes would water.
Yeah, I think we'd be looking at six figures probably.
More. I think more probably.
We rank 10 million quid or something.
Who knows? And then you wonder where it goes. Where does it go? Considering he still feels the need to.
I mean,
because
he might have some offshore things going on, Cayman Islands, probably somewhere like that.
He's well connected in the business and finance world, so he'll know what to do. Just as he's well connected now in the media world and the YouTube world, he's a very well connected individual, and I'm sure he works that very hard. As he works everything very hard. He is he's clearly a workaholic. He doesn't rest.
No,
he doesn't sit on his laurels. He doesn't put his feet up. And there are positives to that. I want to try and bring balance to it. There are positives to that. It wouldn't be the life for me. I think once you reach a certain level, you just slow down and relax. You'll burn out.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, there are positives to having that as your nature. But if you had, if you were working with total honesty and integrity, then it would be positive to that. But
no problem at all.
It's just that, he has crossed a certain line. And if a lot of people have been scammed, then I don't know, man, that kind of invalidates all the good as far as I'm, concerned.
Yeah.
And I just think that, it has to be spoken about. Right. So we just got to about the hour now, roughly. So I might put a lid on that. But thanks for
no
coming on the show. This is going to be, what did I say? God knows what this is going to turn out to be like. But you never know. It might actually boost the subscribers, and it might, you never know. This might go viral, might go nuclear.
Can I give my podcast a plug while I'm on?
Oh yeah, why not, man? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've not actually broadcast for a couple of years, almost probably a year and 3/4. But it was called the Truth, Health, Freedom Podcast. Truth, Health, Freedom Podcast, because Brian wanted us to narrow down into a micro niche. So, and I was trying to think, well, these are the things I'm interested in that I'd like it to be about. I probably would have liked it to be slightly broader. Truth, Health, Freedom Podcast. I made quite a number of episodes when when I did the course, and I will be reviving it at some point. And you can see my original review from 2 years ago on that platform.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, and you can find most of the episodes on iTunes as well. And I will be reviving it at some point. I do feel.
Yeah,
But part of why I backed off was the bad taste in the mouth after the course.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's understandable. But yeah, no, but that's to say, so listeners, do that. Go for Truth, Health, Freedom podcast. And yeah, that's going to be, because I think you should just get back to it and get into it. And to me, it would be just desserts, as it were. It would be the right thing, as far as I'm concerned, if your podcast actually came well as a result of this, because if Brian Rose is kind of brought to task and brought to book, and more information about what he's done, scamming people left, right, and centre comes out, then of course I would want I'd want my listeners to say, right, come over, and you to become popular enough that
may I ask
£3,000 comes your way, basically.
May I ask one question?
Yeah.
If there is anybody out there who has taken Brian to the small claims court for this very same scam, whether it's with the Business Accelerator course or the Broadcast Yourself course or any other similar course that he's sold, please do get in touch with either of us, because once we know that it can be done successfully, then I certainly would go ahead and do it. Yeah. And I would certainly let it be known publicly that was the case. And I'm sure then the door would open for people to have the confidence to get their money back, because I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I think, have you tried getting in touch with the people on ScamGuard as well? That have you tried talking to them?
I didn't know you could. I only discovered the site a few days ago when Rebel Wisdom mentioned it, and I wrote a review so I signed up 2 days ago. I wrote a review which is in pending, it says, so it's not public yet. Hopefully that will be public very, very soon. And I didn't know you could actually talk to them.
No. But I suppose if you did actually put a message and you did leave some contact links, and hope that people can get in touch with you that way, because I think that would be a good thing to do. The more the more you can, because the people who are still going after him, if you had them on your side, then of course it would be like a coalition force, wouldn't it? Then
I think the strength in numbers, particularly where with things like these legal situations, when you're going up with against someone with so much more resources, and we're not confident about the law, even if we feel we're morally in the right. And I just think to me, it's about fairness. These people were unjustly scammed out of their money, and they deserve to have it back. It's that simple.
Well, it's true, and it's just wrong that this is doing. It's wrong that he's doing what he's doing. I think it's morally
and
wrong.
It shouldn't hurt Brian either. He should by now have earned plenty of money, and he's a banker. He's a master investor by all accounts. This money will have multiplied. He can more than afford to pay it back. It won't hurt him in the slightest. In fact, he might redeem his own soul in the process.
Yeah, we hope so. Definitely. All right. Well, I'm going to knock it on the head now, but cheers for coming on, man. And we'll just see.
No problem.
We'll see what the outcome and the after effects of putting this alive will be. I plan to put it on 3 days after we're doing this, roughly. So, what day are we on now? Is it Saturday? I
Friday.
think we're Friday now. Yeah, that's the trouble with the lockdown.
It's a bank holiday.
I can't even remember things like that. With the lockdown, days all merge into one, don't they? That's the thing. We haven't got anything that keeps us going.
They do. And if you don't listen to mainstream media as well, which I don't listen to much of, but today I did, and that's why I found out it was Friday. It's a bank holiday. It's VE Day.
Oh yeah, I remember the VE Day bit. Yeah, that's right. But I couldn't remember the rest of it. All sort of merged into one. So I think I'm going to aim for the following Monday. That's when I'm going to have this up. So
okay, thank you very, very much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope I've done it justice.
Oh yeah,
because you've done really well. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Cheers. Well, I certainly hope that you enjoyed that, everyone. I tell you, what an eye-opener that is. You ain't never going to see Brian Rose the same ever again after that, are you? No. Now look, why did I make a video like this? It could involve, bringing a little bit of trouble my way. It's a bit of what you would call it, it's a bit of a can of worms to open. And so I want to leave you with a final thought. I'm not just doing this, all right, fair enough. It's kind of good justice if people like, if people like Alan and other people who have been stung by him do get justice. It would be a good thing if they did, right? But then, of course, I do have my own reasons, and I'll tell you why I have my own reasons for getting involved in this. It's about 19 years ago now, when 9/11 happened. There was no social media. You couldn't just go on Facebook and then see what alternative views there were in an instant. This stuff you had to wait for. And I remember thinking to myself that at the time, I didn't trust the government. I certainly fucking didn't trust Tony Blair. George Bush, out of the fucking question. You know how it was with him and with them back in the day, right? And I remember them using the phrase New World Order, and I remember them talking about how they wanted to curtail a lot of our freedoms. And I remember also, because I was in London, well, New York gets hit like that. London starts to feel vulnerable. You kind of think London could be next, man, because it just happens to be one of those cities, If it ain't going to be New York, it's going to be London, or it's going to be Paris, or I don't know. There's very few cities in the world that you will think of that you would associate in that kind of way. So yeah, that's what I thought. And then I thought, well, I can't believe the news. I don't trust anyone. I'll wait for David Icke to write a book. And then he wrote a book called Alice in Wonderland and the World Trade Center Disaster. And I read it. And well, although to be honest, I'm not really the conspiracist, and I've said this, and I don't believe everything David Icke says, and I've said this. What I did like is the fact that he completed the picture, and I had therefore basically a wider reality model to build as a result of reading his book. And I thought, well, he's always been a good man, and I like him. And I don't like the idea of him being censored, even though I'm sick of conspiracies and I'm sick of conspiracy fatigue. With David Icke, he goes back before any of all of these people. And I'm really not into censorship of any kind whatsoever. I'd rather we have more speech and we talk more about it, and I'd rather be able to encourage people to have more optimistic opinions about the future. But in the case of David Icke, no, the idea of him being deplatformed and unpersoned, right, is bad. But the idea of David Icke also getting involved with a con man like Brian Rose, I also feel is not a good thing. And so the reason why I put this video out is because if it does go high profile, if it does go viral, if a lot of people see it, I want David Icke to see this video. And if David Icke doesn't get to see this video first, then I'd like his son Gareth Icke to see it. I'm just a bit concerned, and I just would suggest to Gareth, if he sees this video, and to David, if you see this video, just to please be a bit more careful and a bit more selective about the company that you keep, right? And don't encourage this con man anymore, because we're still with you. We're still with you, David. I'm still with you, even though, as I've said, I am sceptical about a lot of what you think. You still have my respect, and you still have my interest. But I don't trust the man who interviewed you. And that's why I've done this video. Right. That's my version of what you would call a Jerry's final thought on Jerry Springer, except that it's, far more erudite and far more sophisticated than that. Right. So, yes, I'm going to have a couple of days off releasing YouTube videos. Let the dust settle with this one for a little while, and then I'll come back a bit later in the week. So, see you later, alligator. See you soon, baboon. If you like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Also join the Facebook group, follow us on Twitter and subscribe on BitChute. It's early days for us yet, so please help this channel grow, and it will be gratefully appreciated if you do.